8 centuries ago, in the shadowy mountains and war-torn villages of feudal Japan, a secret code was quietly shaping the fate of an entire nation. The samurai, those legendary warriors whose names still echo through history, were not born with iron nerves or unbreakable courage. In fact, most people don't realize that the samurai were, at their core, ordinary men. They felt fear, doubt, and hesitation just like anyone else. But what set them apart wasn't some mystical birthright. It was a system, a set of daily rituals and mental disciplines so powerful that, for generations, it was guarded like a state secret. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that today could be your last. That was the reality for the samurai. Every sunrise brought the possibility of battle, betrayal, or even a single mistake that could cost them their honor or their life. Yet, instead of being paralyzed by fear, these warriors developed a reputation for facing death with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. How did they do it? The answer wasn't in their swords or their armor. It was in their minds. What's even more fascinating is that this hidden code of the samurai has a surprising parallel in American history. Think about the soldiers of the Revolutionary War standing on frozen ground at Valley Forge, outnumbered and outgunned, yet refusing to back down. Or the pilots of World War II, flying into enemy territory with no guarantee of return. Like the samurai, these Americans weren't fearless by nature. They trained themselves to act in spite of fear, to follow a code that demanded discipline, resilience, and a willingness to face the unknown. But here's the twist. While the American heroes of history relied on grit and brotherhood, the samurai took it a step further. They built their courage on a foundation of daily rituals, practices that modern science is only now beginning to understand. These weren't just habits. They were psychological weapons designed to rewire the brain and transform ordinary men into legends. For centuries, the details of these rituals were shrouded in secrecy, passed down from master to apprentice, hidden from outsiders. But today, neuroscientists and historians are finally uncovering the truth. The samurai's hidden code wasn't just about honor or loyalty. It was about mastering fear itself, using techniques that anyone, yes, even you, can learn and apply. So, what were these rituals, and how can they help you conquer your own battles? Whether you're facing a tough boss, a life-changing decision, or just the daily grind, the answers are more surprising and more practical than you might think. And as you'll see, the real secret of the samurai is not just a story from the past. It's a blueprint for courage that's more relevant today than ever before. But before we reveal the first ritual, let's dig deeper into the icy heart of the samurai's training, a practice so extreme it would make even the toughest modern warriors think twice. The first ritual in the samurai's hidden code was as brutal as it was transformative. It was called Misogi, a practice that, on the surface, looked like nothing more than a test of physical endurance. But beneath the icy water, something far more powerful was happening. Every morning, before the sun had even touched the mountain tops, samurai would leave the warmth of their homes and trek into the wilderness. There they would stand beneath freezing waterfalls, letting the water crash over their bodies until their skin burned and their breath came in ragged gasps. No armor, no weapons, just the raw force of nature and their own willpower. To outsiders, Misogi seemed like madness. Why would anyone willingly subject themselves to such discomfort? But the samurai understood something that most people still miss. The real battle is always inside your own mind. When you stand in the grip of the cold, your body screams for escape. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and your thoughts spiral into panic. But if you can stay, if you can breathe through the shock and resist the urge to run, you begin to realize that fear is just a sensation, not a command. The samurai used Misogi to train their brains to stay calm under pressure, to override the primal urge to flee, and to build a kind of mental armor that no enemy could penetrate. This idea isn't just ancient history. In fact, it has a powerful echo in American culture. Think about the Navy SEALs. Some of the most elite warriors in the world. Their infamous Hell Week is a modern-day Misogi. Recruits are pushed to their physical and mental limits, plunged into icy surf, forced to endure sleepless nights, and challenged to keep moving when every instinct tells them to quit. The lesson is the same. If you can control your mind in the face of extreme discomfort, you can control it anywhere. It's no coincidence that many SEALs and top athletes now use cold exposure as part of their training, echoing the samurai's ancient wisdom. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Modern neuroscience has finally caught up with what the samurai knew centuries ago. Studies show that when you voluntarily expose yourself to cold and focus on steady breathing, you actually rewire your brain's response to stress. The amygdala, the part of your brain that triggers fear, learns to stay quiet. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought and decision-making, grows stronger. This isn't just theory. It's been proven in labs and on the front lines, from Olympic athletes to firefighters and first responders. Misogi wasn't about suffering for its own sake. It was about forging a mind that could face anything: battle, loss, humiliation, or even the daily grind of modern life. The samurai believed that if you could master yourself in the cold, you could master yourself anywhere. And today, whether it's a cold shower before a big meeting or a plunge into icy water to start the day, people all over the world are rediscovering the power of this ancient ritual. So, the next time you hesitate before stepping into discomfort, whether it's a tough conversation, a new challenge, or just the shock of cold water, remember the samurai. Remember the Navy SEALs. Remember that the real test isn't outside, it's in your mind. And with the right ritual, you can train yourself to pass it every single time. But Misogi was just the beginning. The samurai's code went even deeper, unlocking a mental state that most people never experience, a state where fear and doubt simply disappear. If Misogi was the ritual that forged the body and tested the will, Mushin was the secret that unlocked the mind. Mushin, which means no mind or empty mind, was the samurai's answer to the chaos of battle and the paralyzing grip of fear. But don't mistake Mushin for emptiness or a blank stare. It's a state of pure presence where action flows without hesitation. And the mind is free from the clutter of doubt, worry, and overthinking. For the samurai, Mushin was the difference between life and death, a mental edge that allowed them to move with lightning speed and absolute clarity, even when the world around them was falling apart. To reach Mushin, the samurai practiced zazen meditation every single day. They would sit in silence, legs folded, eyes half closed, focusing only on the rhythm of their breath. Thoughts would come, memories, fears, plans for the future, but the samurai learned to let them drift by like leaves floating down a stream. Over time, this daily discipline rewired their brains, teaching them to let go of distractions and focus entirely on the present moment. On the battlefield, this meant that a samurai could react instantly to danger without being slowed down by second-guessing or anxiety. In a duel, the one who hesitated even for a heartbeat was the one who fell. This idea of no mind might sound foreign, but it's actually woven into the fabric of American history. Think about the legendary pilots of World War II flying their P-51 Mustangs through enemy fire at breakneck speeds. In those moments, there was no time for doubt or hesitation. The difference between survival and disaster was the ability to act on pure instinct, to trust training and intuition over conscious thought. Many of these pilots described entering a zone where everything seemed to slow down, and their actions felt effortless, an American version of Mushin. Today, neuroscientists call this state flow. It's the same mental zone that top athletes, musicians, and even surgeons enter when they're performing at their absolute best. In flow, the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for self-criticism and rumination, goes quiet. The mind becomes laser-focused, and time seems to stretch or disappear. Studies have shown that people in flow are not only more effective, but also happier and more resilient under stress. But Mushin isn't just for warriors or athletes. It's a tool anyone can use to break free from the chains of overthinking and anxiety. In the modern world, we're bombarded by distractions, endless notifications, constant news, and the pressure to always be on. The result? Our minds are rarely still, and our actions are often clouded by doubt. The samurai's answer was simple but profound. Train your mind to let go. Practice being present, even for a few minutes each day. Over time, you'll find that decisions become easier, confidence grows, and fear loses its grip. There's a story often told among martial artists about a samurai who faced an opponent known for his speed and cunning. As the duel began, the samurai's mind was empty, no fear, no anger, no anticipation. He moved without thinking, responding to his opponent's every move as if they were dancing. In the end, it was the opponent who faltered, tripped up by his own anxious thoughts. The samurai's victory wasn't just physical, it was mental, a triumph of Mushin over chaos. So, whether you're stepping into a high-stakes meeting, preparing for a big game, or just trying to quiet your mind after a long day, remember the lesson of Mushin. The power to act without fear or hesitation isn't reserved for ancient warriors or American heroes. It's a skill you can build one breath at a time. And as you'll see, the samurai's code didn't stop with the mind. Their next secret was hidden even deeper in the very center of the body, where true courage is born beneath the armor, beyond the sword. The samurai believed that true courage came from a place deeper than the mind or the heart. They called it Hara, the body's center, located just below the navel. To the samurai, Hara was more than anatomy. It was the wellspring of willpower, the anchor that kept them steady in the face of chaos. In Japanese culture, when someone is described as having a settled belly, it means they possess unshakable resolve. This idea wasn't just poetic, it was practical, and it shaped the way samurai prepared for every challenge, from the battlefield to the most personal moments of honor and shame. The training of Hara began with the breath. Before every duel, every decision, the samurai would pause and draw a deep, slow breath into their abdomen. This wasn't just about oxygen, it was about grounding themselves, lowering their sense of gravity, and quieting the storm of nerves that threatened to take over. The ritual was simple. Inhale deeply through the nose, letting the belly expand. Hold for a moment. Then exhale slowly through the mouth. With each breath, anxiety would loosen its grip, and a sense of calm strength would take its place. The samurai believed that when Hara was strong, fear could not take root. This ancient wisdom has a powerful echo in American history. Consider the astronauts of the Apollo missions strapped into rockets atop thousands of tons of explosive fuel, facing the unknown with the eyes of the world upon them. Before liftoff, many astronauts practiced deep, controlled breathing to steady their nerves. Neil Armstrong, the first man to set foot on the moon, was known for his calm under pressure, a calm he credited, in part, to his ability to control his breath and focus his mind. In moments where panic could mean disaster, the ability to return to one's center to find Hara became the difference between triumph and tragedy. Modern science now confirms what both samurai and astronauts intuitively understood. Deep, abdominal breathing activates the vagus nerve, a critical link between the gut and the brain. When this nerve is stimulated, it sends a powerful signal: you are safe. The body's fight-or-flight response eases, heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, and the mind clears. This isn't just relaxation, it's a biological reset, a way to reclaim control in the most stressful situation. Neuroscientists like Dr. Andrew Huberman have shown that this kind of breathing can rapidly shift the body from panic to poise, making it a tool for anyone facing high-stakes moments. But Hara is more than a physical technique. It's a mindset, a commitment to stand firm when everything around you is uncertain. In the American military, this is often called holding the line. In sports, it's the clutch moment when an athlete steadies themselves before the final play. In everyday life, it's the quiet courage to speak up, to take a risk, or to face a fear head-on. The samurai trained their Hara every day, not just for battle, but for life itself. There's a story from the early days of American football when games were played in mud and snow, and players wore little more than leather helmets. In the final seconds of a championship game, with the crowd roaring and the outcome hanging in the balance, a quarterback took a deep breath, felt his center, and threw the winning pass. Years later, he would say that in that moment, everything else faded away. There was only the breath, the center, and the action that followed. That's Hara in action, as real on the gridiron as it was on the battlefield. So, whether you're facing a boardroom, a classroom, or a personal crossroads, remember the lesson of Hara. True courage isn't about feeling fearless, it's about finding your center, breathing deep, and acting with resolve no matter what storms rage around you. And as the samurai knew, when you master your center, you become unshakable. But the code of the samurai didn't end there. In the modern world, these ancient rituals are being rediscovered and adapted by a new generation of warriors, people just like you, ready to face their own battles with unbreakable will. The samurai's code, once hidden in the mystic mountains of Japan, is now finding new life in the hands of modern warriors. But these aren't just soldiers or martial artists, they're everyday people, CEOs, athletes, and even students, all searching for an edge in a world that never stops testing their limits. What's remarkable is how these ancient rituals, once reserved for the battlefield, are now being adapted to the challenges of the 21st century. And in the United States, a country built on the spirit of reinvention, this revival is taking on a life of its own. Take the world of business, for example. In Silicon Valley, where the pressure to innovate is relentless and the stakes are sky high, executives are turning to practices that would have seemed outlandish just a decade ago. Cold exposure, meditation, and breathwork, once the domain of monks and samurai, are now part of the daily routine for some of America's most successful entrepreneurs. Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter, famously starts his mornings with an ice bath and meditation, crediting these rituals for his ability to stay calm and focused in the face of chaos. He's not alone. Across the country, leaders are embracing discomfort as a way to build resilience, sharpen decision-making, and keep fear at bay. But it's not just the boardroom where the samurai's code is making a comeback. In the world of sports, athletes are using these same principles to gain a mental edge. The legendary Michael Jordan was known for his pre-game rituals: deep breathing, visualization, and a laser focus on the present moment. Today, NFL teams hire mindfulness coaches, and Olympic swimmers practice cold immersion to train their bodies and minds for the pressure of competition. The logic is the same as it was for the samurai. If you can master your mind in practice, you can master it when it matters most. Even in the military, echoes of the samurai's discipline can be found. The U.S. Navy SEALs, often considered the modern world's elite warriors, incorporate cold water training, meditation, and controlled breathing into their grueling regimen. These aren't just physical tests, they're designed to break down mental barriers, to teach recruits that the mind can be trained to endure, adapt, and overcome. The SEALs' unofficial motto, "The only easy day was yesterday," could have been written by a samurai. Of course, not everyone agrees on the value of these rituals. Some critics dismiss them as just another wellness trend, a form of biohacking for the privileged few. There's been debate in the media about whether cold showers and meditation are truly transformative, or simply a placebo effect dressed up in ancient wisdom. But the science is hard to ignore. Studies from top universities have shown that regular exposure to controlled discomfort, whether it's cold, silence, or focused breathing, can rewire the brain, reduce anxiety, and boost performance under stress. What's most exciting is how accessible these practices have become. You don't need a mountain waterfall or a Zen temple to start. A cold shower in the morning, 5 minutes of silent breathing before a big meeting, or a moment of mindfulness before making a tough decision — these are the modern equivalents of the samurai's daily rituals. And as more people share their stories online, from viral TikTok challenges to best-selling self-help books, a new generation is discovering that courage isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, one uncomfortable step at a time. So, whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, training for a marathon, or just trying to get through a tough week, the samurai's code is there for you. It's a reminder that the greatest battles are fought within, and that the tools for victory are as close as your next breath. But the journey doesn't end with rituals alone. The next step is learning how to turn these ancient practices into daily habits, small, powerful actions that transform fear into fuel and hesitation into unstoppable momentum. The samurai's rituals were built on centuries of tradition, but the core idea, train the mind to act in the face of fear, has found new life in the modern world. Today, science and psychology have given us tools that echo the ancient code, making the path to courage more accessible than ever. Two of the most powerful are the 5-second rule and the practice of micro challenges, both of which have deep roots in American culture and history. The 5-second rule, popularized by author Mel Robbins, is deceptively simple. When you feel the urge to act, whether it's speaking up in a meeting, making a difficult phone call, or stepping into a cold shower, you count down from 5 and move before your brain can talk you out of it. This tiny window is all it takes to bypass the mental brakes that keep us stuck in hesitation. Neuroscientists have shown that the human brain is wired to protect us from discomfort, but it's also incredibly adaptable. By acting quickly, you teach your mind that fear is not a stop sign, but a signal to move forward. This principle isn't new. In fact, it's woven into the fabric of American history. Think of the pioneers who headed west, leaving everything familiar behind for a shot at a better life. They didn't wait for perfect conditions or total confidence. They acted in the face of uncertainty, often with only a few seconds to decide whether to cross a river, climb a mountain, or defend their families. The same spirit drove the Apollo astronauts, who had to make split-second decisions in the vast silence of space, trusting their training and instincts over the paralyzing grip of fear. But courage isn't just about big dramatic moments. It's built in the small daily choices that most people overlook. That's where micro-challenges come in. The idea is simple. Deliberately seek out small discomforts every day. Make your bed as soon as you wake up, even when you don't feel like it. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Wait 10 minutes before checking your phone in the morning. Do one more push-up when your muscles are screaming to stop. Each of these acts is a tiny battle against laziness and avoidance, and each victory rewires your brain to embrace challenge rather than shrink from it. This approach has a long tradition in American life. During the Great Depression, families survived by doing the hard things: patching clothes, growing their own food, and finding creative ways to make ends meet. In the Civil Rights Movement, ordinary people faced daily discomfort and danger, yet kept moving forward, one small act of courage at a time. These micro-challenges, repeated day after day, built a resilience that changed the course of history. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Dr. Andrew Huberman and other researchers have found that every time you choose discomfort over comfort, you strengthen the brain's circuits for willpower and self-control. The medial anterior cingulate cortex, a region linked to perseverance and even longevity, becomes more active. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes routine, and the mind learns that it can handle far more than it ever imagined. Social media has turned these ideas into viral trends. Cold shower challenges, daily gratitude lists, and no snooze morning are sweeping across platforms like TikTok and Instagram, inspiring millions to test their limits. While some critics dismiss these as fads, the results speak for themselves. People report feeling more energized, more confident, and less controlled by anxiety or procrastination. The real magic of the 5-second rule and micro-challenges isn't in the actions themselves, but in what they represent. A daily commitment to growth, a refusal to let fear dictate your life. Just as the samurai sharpened their swords and minds every day, you can sharpen your own courage, one small decision at a time. But the journey doesn't end here. The true transformation comes when these practices become second nature, when you no longer have to force yourself to act, because courage has become a habit. And as history shows, whether in the mountains of Japan or the heart of America, it's these habits that separate those who merely dream from those who dare to live boldly. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's not a single moment of inspiration, but a series of choices, sometimes so small they seem invisible, that add up to something extraordinary. The samurai understood this, and so do the modern warriors who have taken the lessons to heart. Across the United States, stories are emerging of people who have used these ancient and modern rituals to rewrite their own destinies, proving that courage is not a gift, but a skill anyone can build. Take the story of Marcus, a firefighter from Chicago. For years, Marcus struggled with anxiety before every shift. The weight of responsibility, the fear of making a mistake, and the memories of past emergencies haunted him. But after learning about the samurai's rituals, he decided to make a change. Each morning, Marcus started his day with a cold shower, focusing on his breath as the icy water hit his skin. He practiced 5 minutes of silent meditation before leaving for the firehouse. And whenever fear crept in, he used the 5-second rule to act before doubt could take hold. Over time, Marcus noticed a shift, not just in his performance on the job, but in his confidence and sense of control. He became the calm in the chaos, the steady hand his team relied on when lives were on the line. Or consider Emily, a high school teacher in Texas. Public speaking had always terrified her, and the thought of leading a classroom full of teenagers was almost paralyzing. Inspired by the samurai's code, Emily began to introduce micro-challenges into her daily routine. She volunteered to lead meetings, started each class with a deep breath and a moment of mindfulness, and forced herself to speak up even when her voice trembled. The transformation was gradual but undeniable. Her students noticed her new confidence, and soon Emily was mentoring other teachers on how to manage stress and anxiety. What began as a personal experiment became a ripple effect, changing not just her life, but the lives of those around her. These stories aren't unique. All across America, people are rediscovering the power of ritual and discipline. Veterans returning from combat use meditation and breathwork to manage PTSD. Entrepreneurs in bustling cities use cold exposure and the 5-second rule to break through creative blocks and make bold decisions. Even athletes, from high school football players in Ohio to Olympic hopefuls in California, are embracing the samurai's mindset, training not just their bodies but their minds to perform under pressure. This wave of transformation echoes some of the most pivotal moments in American history. During World War II, ordinary citizens became heroes by stepping up. In times of crisis, often without time to prepare or even think, the civil rights movement was built on countless acts of everyday courage, sitting at a lunch counter, marching in the streets, speaking out when silence was safer. In each case, it was the willingness to act, to face discomfort and uncertainty, that changed the course of history. What unites these stories, both past and present, is the realization that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. The samurai knew this, and so do the modern Americans who are carrying their torch. The rituals, cold exposure, meditation, micro-challenges, and the 5-second rule are not magic bullets. They are tools, honed by centuries of practice and now validated by science, that anyone can use to build a life defined by action rather than hesitation. The real transformation happens when these practices become part of who you are. When you wake up and choose discomfort over ease. When you speak up even when your voice shakes. When you act before your mind can talk you out of it, that's when you begin to see what you're truly capable of. And as more people embrace this path, the ripple effect grows, creating a culture where courage is not rare but routine. So, whether you're facing a personal battle or striving to make a difference in your community, remember the journey from fear to courage is built one step at a time. The samurai's code lives on, not just in history books, but in the daily choices of people just like you. And as you continue to practice, you'll discover that the greatest transformation isn't just in what you do, but in who you become. But there's one final truth the samurai understood, a lesson that ties all these rituals and stories together. It's a truth that challenges everything we think we know about courage, and it's the key to unlocking your own potential.